I think several different things kept me from falling into the darkness. First, there were days of darkness. Absolutely. I had people around me I loved, including a son to raise. And I wanted to set an example for my child that, you know, when life kicks you and you fall down, you find your way back up again. And it was very important to me to be able to set that example for my child. I think we're kind of here just to experience life and to play and learn. As long as I'm here with the energy and the will to keep kicking, I'm going to keep kicking. I'm just a person wired that way.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the L3 Perspective. We have a very, very special guest, but I want to share something with you. There's a quote by Walt Disney around imagination, and it goes, "Laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, and dreams are forever." Keep that in mind as we go through today's conversation. Our very special guest today is Michelle Walters. It's been an absolute pleasure just connecting with you prior to this episode. But let me read her bio real quick. An imagination advocate, Michelle Walters helps individuals and organizations with their message, their mindset, and momentum. Michelle is a clinical hypnotherapist, a marketing coach, a speaker, and an author. Michelle created MakeMyHypno.com. Make sure you write that down. A first of its kind custom audio hypnosis generator, fusing her passion for hypnosis, marketing, and AI. She is the winner of Oakland Magazine's Best of Oakland's Best Professional Business Coach of the Year in the year 2024. Michelle is also an award-winning and best-selling author of not one, but two books, An Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love, and the ABCs of Conscious Leadership. You can learn more about Michelle at www.michellewalters.net. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the L3 Perspective. Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm delighted to be here. So nice to meet with you and to be in person recording a podcast.
Absolutely. And I forgot to toss it over to Cam. Let me toss it over to Cam.
He's just forgetting all about me today, guys. You don't see the behind the scenes stuff, but he's mean.
Hey, I've had the opportunity to connect with Michelle. We've had some great dialogue thus far, so I was excited to get this information over to you.
Like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. You guys know the deal. If you don't tell us what you want to see, we'll just do whatever, and nobody really wants that. So, welcome, Michelle. So glad you can make it. Another new to the in-person podcast.
Yes, I've been doing virtual podcasting for a few years. But the in-person setup, man, this is impressive.
Well, thank you. Our first season was 95% of it was virtual. And, you know, Cam and I, we wanted to create more of an experience for future clients, but also our guests specifically. And, you know, we've been very intentional about trying to create that, not trying, but actually creating that space so that we can, you know, help highlight and tell stories such as yourself. Like, you have an amazing story from just a framework of what I've heard, and I think that a lot of people in this world can relate, but they can also learn from some of your experiences and how you've navigated through life, through love, and through leadership.
So you have, I would say, an eclectic kind of like career path. You know, based off our conversation, I was telling Glenn, I was like, well, first she started doing this, and then she started doing that, and now we're here. Mm-hmm. You know, if you could, let's start with like where kind of your professional career kind of started, and like what moved you into that initial path.
So many people have told me this, but of course, to me, it all makes the most perfect sense in the world because it's just an expression of myself, right? So I got in a bachelor's degree in biology, and then found myself working for a decision analysis management consulting company in the early 90s.
What does that mean?
So yeah, absolutely. We helped big companies make strategic decisions.
So data-driven decisions.
Well, yeah, data-driven decisions, but just like usually big investments for like Fortune 100 companies.
Gotcha.
So we were competing against the McKinseys and the Bains and the BCGs and all that kind of stuff, and helping clients. You know, like I worked for a year on a company that was based in Pennsylvania that was a utility. And they were trying to decide, should they be spending their money to be a generation company, to be a transmission company, to be a distribution company? What did they want to play only domestically in the US? Did they want to start playing overseas? Like all these kinds of things. And we had a process and a system for gathering information and gathering data and expert opinions and how to make these decisions because as you might imagine, there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to find a way to fold in all of that information and those egos and whatever else to help people make decisions. And I found this creativity and decision making and mindset and all this stuff really, really interesting. I wound up going off to business school and got an MBA. And when I left business school, I found myself attracted to working in marketing. And this was at the moment when digital marketing was making its appearance.
Yeah.
And so I spent the next 20-something years working in different agencies, companies, that kind of a thing. Lots of big names on my resume. You got the Clorox, the Google, the Schwab, places like that. Helping them with their projects, leading teams, working as kind of the strategic interface person for how to make a campaign come to life. And I loved it. And it was great work. It was on again, off again work because agencies get fired and clients get promoted and, all these kinds of things. So that was great work, but it was very ups and downsy. And then on the personal side of things, I met my husband at a job. We both were working together in Texas and then moved out here and then got married. Well, my husband had been a sickly person his whole life. He had a disease called cystic fibrosis. We had a kid. He had a lung transplant, which was like this great way of extending life. And then several years after that, he had a severe stroke, a severe infection, lived with significant disabilities, and he passed away in 2011.
Okay.
I wasn't deterred. I was going to find a fabulous guy, and it took a little trying, but I found another fabulous guy, fell deeply in love in 2015, and met the man of my dreams. I mean, just manifested that fellow over decades. Sadly, he was... and healthy as a horse, because that was important.
Yeah,
that was on the criteria list,
hey,
right?
Look.
And he passed away about 6 years after we met from a very weird, random blood disease.
Oh, wow.
So I've had my way of experiencing loss. Most everyone has. Mine has been through partners primarily. I'm blessed to be where I am today. Somewhere along the way, in about 2019, I read a book about a hypnotherapist. And I thought, I could do that. I want to do that. So I went to school over in Marin on the weekends and got my certificate. And then when my partner Scott passed and I'd sold a house and my kid had been COVID high school, so there was a lot going on with that. Like life just kind of went, and fell out. And I was like, if I am ever going to do something different, this is the universe saying the door is open. And so I walked through it and opened my business as a hypnotherapist.
So for those that have never heard of hypnotherapy, can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So there are so many myths about hypnosis and I'm going to hypnotize the guards so that they won't notice that we're stealing from the bank, right?
The movie stuff, yeah.
It's hypnosis is nothing like that. Gotcha. We didn't know that much about it until about the last 10 years when we've been able to put people in MRI machines and get a better idea of what's going on in people's heads. And what happens is that it's a natural process. It's completely natural. You don't go into hypnosis unless you allow yourself to. I don't have any magic about it. I'm good at helping people get into that space, but they allow themselves to go into that space. Certain parts of the brain dial down. And when those parts of the brain are dialed down, 3 things happen. The person becomes more open to suggestion. The person becomes more focused. And the person becomes less associated or more dissociated, meaning more dreamy, more ability to imagine your body being different, or you might imagine that you could give up smoking when you couldn't imagine that so easily before. And so when one's brain is in that special state, all kinds of, well, I call it magic, but it's not really
like
magic. Possibilities can happen. And so it's really life-changing for people when you work with a trained hypnotherapist to be able to discover what's stuck in the subconscious mind, get it out of the subconscious mind, replace an unhelpful thought with a better thought, do these kinds of upgrades that are not as available in a fully waking conscious state.
I feel like we're in this like not, I don't want to call it mental health, but like this like mindset. Because Lion, he said almost the same thing. So he doesn't do hypnotherapy, but he's an ICF coach that does like deep like trauma almost, and like you say, like replace the thought or remove a thought. That's what he helps to do, is like remove these kind of like negative feelings or negative traumas and help people like deal with things they never thought about. And so that's interesting. My mom does hypnotherapy.
Oh, really?
Yep. And so she enjoys it a lot. She says it's helped her quite a bit.
It's very, very helpful. I try to use the word replace a thought because in my experience, the human brain does not like a vacuum.
That's what he said too. Yeah, he was like, he's like, you take something out, you got to put something.
You got to put something
back in.
You got to put something in. And so it's very important when I'm working with clients to understand, okay, what are you doing? What are you trying to let go of? And what is something that we can put back in that place?
Right.
And, usually it's you put something either positive or neutral back in that place, and the brain in that state will accept it.
Yeah. I definitely want to eventually go back to talking about your previous career, but while we're on hypnotherapy, what was it when you were reading that book? What was it that not even triggered, that sparked that thought of like, this is why I want to move forward, or what I want to move forward in doing?
So there's a couple pieces to this. One piece of it was that the character in the book was just helping people with problems. People, helping, somebody needed to quit smoking. Well, she helped with that. Somebody was having relationship issues. And why were they having relationship issues? And how did that draw back into the trail of previous relationship issues, right? And so it was kind of this understanding of what is going on in the workings of the mind, and how do we use thought patterns? How do we reshape, not listen to that voice in your head, but figure out how to take control of that voice in your head to make changes go the way you want.
Right.
Now, the other piece of it that I didn't mention yet is that I worked with a hypnotherapist. When my husband, Bruce, was so sick and having all of these health problems, I was introduced to a woman who I really thought of as more sort of my psychic or my intuition coach or something like that. And I didn't really think about it until years later when I discovered, oh yeah, well, she was a hypnotherapist. But it didn't feel like that was the focus so much of our work. But I know that was part of what made her so helpful. So she was sort of an early mentor, and she's now passed away, but I feel like I can still talk to her.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, there's so thank you for sharing that piece of it. What experience, like, so as a leader, right, and your experience with hypnotherapy, have you worked with leaders of businesses, organizations, or teams? Like, what are a few tips that you can provide, leaders in that capacity?
I think one of the most important things for leaders to remember is to be approachable and get on the same page as the people you're talking to. I have, from my corporate experience, from all of that time, there were great leaders and there were poor leaders. And one of the things that I would say that I saw amongst the best of them, was really an authentic inquiry into what if this job is going well for you? What if this job is not going well for you? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that together we could do to improve how it goes? Mm-hmm. And sometimes there is, right. Sometimes there's not, or there's not today, right? Working with leaders, one of the most important things that I see is really helping them to be confident to go to that place that when they are approaching things in that right spirit of authenticity and curiosity and genuine care, things work out much better.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Everybody's a little happier.
Yeah. I once had a job where we were small company, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 employees. And the CEO had never had a performance review process for the company.
Yeah.
And I was one of her top lieutenants in the firm. So I was brought in. Part of what I needed to do was to come up with this, way of talking to people and properly assessing them and that kind of a thing. And unfortunately, her biases about many of the employees led to what I felt was a substandard process and assessment. And it shows, when employees don't feel valued,
right?
Are they going to give much credibility to that assessment? No. Right. Are they going to take it to heart and recognize what really could make things better? Mm-hmm. Not so much.
Yeah.
So, there's good examples too, but we all have to learn from the things that both went well. I like to focus on strengths. Hypnosis focuses very heavily on strengths, but sometimes you have to look at what's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
We had that conversation this morning with one of our team members. Is because Glenn and I are both prior military. And I was on our way to work this morning. I was just like, man, you don't realize a lot of these lessons, especially after you spent 20 years in a military organization, when you've been in 20 years, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go, I'm done. But then you see kind of what the civilian sector has not been afforded the opportunity to learn. And learn, I would say, in more of a safe-ish environment, because as we know, you can't just leave the military the next day, right? And but we had a conversation with our team member this morning where it was these are the things that are working. We've noticed these are things that aren't working. What we also take responsibility for is that these are also not the things of why we why we brought you on in the first place. Right. We brought you on because you do this really well, and there has been no problem with that. Our expectation was that you would also then in turn learn some of these other things that in retrospect you have no experience with whatsoever, and that's a foul on us to expect you to then learn those things.
And this happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, right?
Yep.
And as companies are growing, they hope, we could get Bill to do that. Bill's so good at these other things. Yeah. Let's see if we can get Bill to do that.
Or they really want to be such a part of the team. They'll learn whatever they can.
Right.
and that just isn't, it just isn't that way. Right. As I have built my app, I know we're going to talk about my app, and I've needed to bring in resources and people to help me with things. And there are things that I am good at. I am really good at. And I'm fortunate that I'm a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. Yeah. I'm pretty good at a lot of things.
For sure.
But there are some things that I am you know what? I am not going to get into that. I need to, my job is to find the right expert to put on the task. Right. That's my job.
For sure.
And it's important to recognize that, right?
Well, it's hard. Yeah. It's a little bit hard. And I know we're going to talk more about my app, but my app is a no-code, low-code AI app. These things are buildable by people who don't know much about them at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And however, that doesn't mean that you should do every aspect of it yourself. I started off I was like, oh my God, I could do this myself. And so I started off
There's
actually
all
like
these websites that I can learn.
I can ask, I can get advice, I can do this. There's a drop down. I just pick this value, pick this value, match them up, and it all goes. Unbelievable what is available out there.
Right.
What I then realized, this was about June, was that it would take me until Christmas to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I would have a whole new skill set that I didn't really want to have.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I decided at that point, it was like, no, I need to find talent that's going to fill in for some of these gaps, because my job is to be the person in charge and to be in charge of quality and all these other things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I need to pick the right thing from the drop-down menu.
Yeah. So when you're talking about building an app, and I think this is something that a lot of people are curious about, right? Is like the process of that. I've only heard a few people kind of talk about it, like, hey, you find a developer, the price tag is normally this, depending on how extreme the app can get. And, before you even get started, there's a wireframe, and it's like, what are we trying to accomplish? And you have to go through kind of this building block of what it actually looks like. Could you talk about what that experience was like,
Absolutely. So I have this massive leg up. I was there, not at the invention of the internet, but like, I started working in digital marketing in 1997.
Yeah.
And so
you've
I
seen the
saw a
progression,
lot of progression, and I was in a lot of places on leading edge of things.
That's
like
cool.
we would have to create a tool that blasted emails because there wasn't
one out there.
There wasn't one to
Mailchimp
buy.
didn't exist.
No, exactly. So I have probably a much higher risk tolerance and development experience than a lot of other folks.
That's true.
However, it is amazing.
Yeah.
I used a tool, and I had in my head, because I've designed websites, several of them before, like, we probably need this content, this content, this content. Well, you can ask AI. Is that the content I need? What am I missing?
Yeah.
You get some opinions. You decide to shuffle things around. Then you go to the app creator tool that I'm using, and there's a little AI box. I would like you to make me a homepage with the following elements. Da 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 da. No wireframe.
Yeah.
Just draw something up. Perfect? No, but it's a head start.
Yeah.
Right? I could, between me and AI, pretty much lay out what all these things were supposed to do. I hired an overseas developer team, and they did exactly what I told them to do. No, and then they created some tasks that I didn't tell them to do, and I had to be like, what is this for? They did a lot of good things.
Yeah.
They did a lot of things that I don't really like or approve of, or it's not really the best solution.
Yeah.
However, they created a base for me.
Yeah.
And then they hooked that base up to a whole bunch of different web services and APIs and that kind of a thing that do various functions of the app. And so then I tested it and told people what they had to fix and fix things, and eventually got it to run. When I say eventually, I mean like 2 months. Which
is fast.
Developers I talk to are like, could have done it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You're the developer and you're unrealistic.
Exactly.
But relative to other past experience, complete game changer.
Yeah.
Outstanding expenses, yes. Extraordinary, no, not really. Very iterative process. Sometimes things work. I've had customers call me and say, hey, I didn't get my script. Oh my God, what's wrong? I have to go in and figure it out myself.
Yeah.
But is it doable? It is doable. Do I advise it for Joe off the street? You might want a partner.
Right.
Because it's trickier than you think. And then I had a friend who's kind of up on the whole AI stuff. He goes into San Francisco and, goes to the meetups and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he says, oh, you're having problems in this part of your app. Will you just do this?
Yeah.
And I said, you don't have an app. You've never built an agent.
Exactly.
I tried that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
I solved the problem. This is how I solved it. But just because someone says do it that way,
Yeah.
Right.
experience is the truth teller.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the app that you use to the AI that you use to go through stuff?
So the AI in my app presently
Yeah.
is ChatGPT,
Okay.
or OpenAI,
Yeah.
because it's all through an interface. And my app tool runs on a system called Bubble. Which,
Okay, I've heard of Bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it uses a number of other services and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, webhooks and
All that
stuff.
fun stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned about one of the cool things about utilizing AI, and there will obviously very quickly be a gap between people who use it as a resource and then they just use it to just send out emails or rewrite emails. And so you mentioned experience. I was watching a video the other day, and the guy was pretty much just talking about how you can't replace experience, right? And so and it was leadership specifically, but it was talking about how do leaders or people utilize AI appropriately while still integrating their experience, and those will be the people who really take things to the next level, and that gap will become wider because there's a difference when you're integrating your experience into the prompt, right, and trying to get the end result of what you want, so that you can impact things on another level. And so, that story popped in my head when you mentioned the word experience. And so, in moving forward, so speaking of experience, how did you leverage your previous experience to the implementation of your app? And then what is the name of your app?
So my app is called makemyhypno.com.
Okay.
What I realized as a hypnotherapist, I make recordings for clients all the time. If I want to make a recording for a client, I got to sit in front of a microphone. I got to tell the microphone what this particular client needs. And there's a certain amount of beauty in that. I can kind of channel into whatever source it is that gives me the right words, because I'm pretty good at that. And my recordings for my clients, they love them. And it's very helpful to our work because repetition is part of what makes hypnotherapy work. But I realized there's a whole other piece of the market that doesn't have the money to pay for a private hypnotherapist to sit in front of a microphone and edit and all the things that have to be done. And that maybe AI could do this. And I don't want to say exactly, but in some ways, what AI is really good at is just coming up with words on a theme and following a prompt about things.
Yeah. Creating repetition.
Creating repetition, telling you positive things, building on associations. In some ways, AI is right now, as it stands in 2025, like the perfect tool for doing this, right? And so it took a lot of work to figure out how to write my prompts and how to write it to make it work. It took work to get the audio right. It took work to put all the various pieces together. But what I came up with is makemyhypno.com. It creates a personalized, a custom hypnotherapy recording for the client. It's about 15 minutes long, 15 to 17 minutes long. There are 19 topics as of today that it works on. So stress, sleep, confidence, things like that. And it uses your information, just 4 quick fields to fill out. You give it your email address, you verify your email, and it makes it in 5 minutes and emails it to you.
So I have
Genius.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's, I mean, to me, I was like, there's all these people going to get recordings from YouTube or whatever. And what do we know about them? They're all pre-recorded. Yeah. They were not made for Cam and Glenn, right? Yeah. These are made for you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say genius. Sorry. Because many people will identify those things, but not come up with a solution that is repeatable and does not require you to do something every day.
But this is the way I want to lead my life.
I mean, a lot of people.
So, someone asked me, they said, well, what do you want in life, Michelle? You're a solopreneur. And I'm like, I want what most solopreneurs want. I want to be able to have fun, make money, and travel.
Yeah, I want to make money while I'm sleeping.
I want to make money while I'm sleeping. Well, how do I do that? I'm like, I have 2 books. That's great. I sell a few of them. I have recordings on Etsy. I sell a few of them. But this is a bigger idea. And I think needed by so many people.
Yeah. So based on you saying, obviously it's needed by most people, given the information that, let's say if I was going on the app and I was putting in my information, what makes it, or what's the difference between someone putting those same responses into their chat GPT and just hitting
They could.
the button?
They could. And it would take them the time that it took me
Right.
to experiment with getting the prompts.
Yeah.
And all of the recordings right now are made in my voice. I may at some point make different voices available. I mean, the technology is there.
Yeah. Right.
I could start doing hypnotherapy scripts in French if I wanted to,
It's a good idea.
Paul you.
I got big dreams. I got
Yeah.
big dreams. People could do this on their own, but they didn't go to hypnotherapy school for hundreds of hours to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
You can build a website on your own. That doesn't mean that you're the best person to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases, good leaders get to the point of recognizing play to your strengths.
Right.
If your strengths are not making hypnosis audio recordings, finding someone else who does that might be a good, resource to have in your back pocket kind of thing.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question, not knowing what you were going to respond to, but obviously there's, and I often hear Cam talk about this as far as, resources are right at our fingertips, right? And so a lot of the principles that we're teaching small businesses that work for us, they could clearly go into ChatGPT and it'd be in alignment, very close alignment to get the outcomes that we're helping clients get, right? But the problem is that most people fail to execute, right? And so it makes sense for someone who can just put that prompt in ChatGPT and throw it in there. They go to someone who also has experience and has coined as an expert versus getting redundant information. So
yeah, I mean, you can do a whole lot of things by yourself right now,
Right.
but do I want to take apart the transmission of my VW camper van and rebuild it?
Yeah.
Probably better hire that kind of thing out,
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And so as you like scale, you talked about big dreams. What are your big dreams?
Well, I'm trying to find other hypnotherapists that
Oh, cool.
want to use this app, right? So that we can put their directions and their voices into their own versions, a white label version, so to speak. I'd like to look at, maybe I need to talk to you guys more. I'd like to look at making this a corporate wellness benefit. Or a wellness benefit, especially for very small companies
Yes.
who have a hard time with affording wellness benefits.
Yeah.
I can make good deals.
For sure. I'm here to deal and wheel,
I can see that being very effective. Like I'm in a season, and not to cut you off, because I definitely want to hear more of your dreams.
Yeah.
In the season of helping the organization has over 100 employees right now, and I can, based off of a survey that we did about a year ago, I could see organizations 100 to less staff members really benefiting from that.
Yeah, because it's very easy to use.
Yep.
I email it directly to the recipient, so it's private. You can put it on your phone, and then people are like, "Oh, I'm going to have to take 15 minutes out of my day." No, you don't even have to do that. I know we're not supposed to sleep with our phones next to our beds, but almost everybody I know does, except for small children who are being monitored. And if it's on your phone, you just play it as you're falling asleep. And your subconscious hears
still hears it.
when you're falling asleep. And so you don't even, if you're willing to put it on a tablet or your phone or something, you don't even have to carve time out of your day. Your subconscious will be listening to it. Some people have reported that they experienced an uplift in that category. They started exercising or delivered a great presentation or whatever it was they were trying to do the next day.
Right.
And one of my users who reported back to me, well, I'm sleeping better. Okay, great. 2 weeks later, I heard from the user again. It took some time, but it kicked in. Now I'm out going on my walk every day. I started dancing to the TV. I'm moving and grooving. So it works on repetition.
Yeah.
And I had another user say, "Oh, it's not working that good." I said, "Well, how many times do you use it?" "Twice." You might need to use it more than twice.
Yeah. And I think in today's age, like, you have to keep going. Like, you know, and that's, you know, we get so caught up in the fact that we can get all these things at our fingertips. You can order food and have it within 30 minutes. You can go on ChatGPT and get a menu, you know, whatever have you. And people forget that you have to do things consistently. You know, like I get up at 3:45 in the morning to go to the gym every day. Everyone I tell that is like, "Oh, hell no." And I'm like, it sucks the first, like when you're getting back into it. But, you know, I get to a space where now, you know, I wasn't feeling well last week. Even though I was not feeling well, my body woke me up at 3:45 and was like, "Hey, fool, we got to go." And I'm like, "Well, no, we got to go back to sleep because I got to feel better." But that doesn't just happen. You know, a business partner of ours was like, "Hey, when I first started going to the gym in the morning, I would just show up to the gym and sit in the parking lot. I didn't even go. But once I got comfortable with like getting up, getting out of the house, getting in the parking lot, then we moved into going into the gym." And I think a lot of people just have to be reminded that like things take a little bit of time.
Yeah, things take time. And some things need to be handled piece by piece.
Yeah.
So I had a private client, because I'm pitching the app, but I also am happy to talk to people individually. I had a client who contacted me a couple years ago, and she says, here's the thing. She says, "I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I really love to drink wine, but I'm drinking too much of it." And I said, "Oh, could be. How much wine are you drinking?"
Yeah.
"A bottle a night." "By yourself?"
Oh, wow.
"Yes, I live alone by myself." "Okay, I might be able to help you cut back on that."
Yeah.
And so we started working our way. What was going wrong? What was part of the reason for the drinking? Well, she had some other reasons, but a lot of it was that she liked the taste of wine and she liked pairing her wines with her food and all this kind of stuff. And so we just worked from a bottle of wine down to the 3/4 to half to a glass. And when she was down to a glass, she's like, "I'm exactly where I want to be."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's great. That's better for your waistline. It's better for society. It's better for, you know, and yes, you've got to make that glass last through the meal, right? But so hypnosis really can, you know, chisel away and work on so many different problems.
Yeah.
You know, there's habit changes, there's phobias, there's relationships, there's business. I had an interesting client recently, kind of a leadership issue client, actually. This client had a job where she had been promoted to like a leadership role, like a floor supervisor or something like that. And she had moved into that position and it had not gone well. It had not gone well. She had very much tried to do things in a way that was community-based and this kind of a thing, and that just was not going well. And as it happened, a medical situation came up and she needed to take some time off to address her medical situation. So she left the supervisor role, addressed the medical situation, and then came to see me as she was going back to work, but going back to not the chief, but the Indian role, right? And in that work together, we were able to uncover a lot of things that were going on. What was going on in her personally, what was going on in these relationships, what was going on with her leadership style, because she was now able to make observations about, you know, kind of a more community, which I'm just going to call more of a feminine kind of emotional side of things versus a more we lead by dictate kind of side, and realize that her leader, it was maybe less about her and more about that leadership style in that organization. That was largely the misfit.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? You guys know more about some of this than probably me, but it was interesting.
Well, the expectation of how you were going to lead, just it was not aligning with how she personally could do it.
It didn't line up.
Yeah.
It didn't line up. And And she was maybe too junior as a leader to recognize and not coached well.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to see this as, oh, well, you have these traits. We can lean into these traits.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was an interesting client to get to help this way and really see sort of how hypnotherapy can help, in this case, with her rejoining her work team.
Yeah. So as an author, Cam was right in the beginning when he said like you have a wide range of
Eclectic.
eclectic experiences. So as an author, just the titles of the book like really grabbed my attention. Can you kind of give us a quick overview of,
Absolutely.
of your book? And
So my first book is called An Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love. And I wrote it because I felt like there was no law of attraction manifesting book for getting a job, which is what I did for all those years in digital marketing when I would have a job and then the agency would get fired or have, whatever would happen. And so what would happen? I'd be out of work, got to manifest another job.
Yeah.
And so that book it's about getting a job, but it's also about sort of taking a more spiritual perspective to it. And it includes both a lot of work stories from me and a lot of personal stories because like you, it all goes together, right? It all goes together. And then my second book I published earlier this year in 2025, I got the leadership bug. And so I trained as a Maxwell certified coach.
Okay.
So I'm a Maxwell certified coach.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to do more in leadership. How do I make a name for myself? And how do I do that in a way that I think fits with what people want to read?
Right.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by another book called The ABCs of Public Speaking.
Okay.
And I thought, I'll write The ABCs of Conscious Leadership.
There you go.
And so it's a compilation of 26 stories.
Okay.
26 personal stories and 26 famous people stories.
Okay.
Where I picked famous people whose name matches the letter that I'm talking about. So each letter is a trait. A is for authenticity. B is for brave. This kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
And then, so you've got my stories in there, and like A is for Abraham Lincoln because the man is known to be authentic.
Yeah.
Right.
And B is for Lucille Ball because Lucille Ball, comedian, super brave.
Gotcha.
And it goes like that all the way through Z. So it's a fun little book. If your listeners want to pick it up, I'll pass on the links to you.
Yes,
It's very approachable because you can read a letter, put it down,
Put it-
Right.
yeah.
read half a book,
Right.
put it
Yeah.
down,
Piece by piece. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
piece by piece.
Commit to 26 days of 1 day of reading.
Well, it's 28 chapters. There's an
Okay.
intro, 26 chapters, and then a little
Okay,
conclusion.
gotcha.
But it's a month,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, one of the things I appreciate kind of going back into my military experience is the, kind of early on, the military being very big on like leadership development and training. And so it seemed like almost every class was built around a John Maxwell book.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how many books he has written until
it's like 70
us-
something.
Yeah. And it was pretty cool. So actually not even thinking about this, but now I'm thinking about it. My leadership principles, the foundation, a lot of them come from John Maxwell. And so, that's pretty cool.
When I went to get my John Maxwell certificate, I was kind of unusual in the group because I felt like most of the people I kept meeting at the lunch table or whatever were former military
Yeah.
or former pastors or church leaders.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They're such good principles.
They are.
Yeah.
They really are. Just a framework. Like one book that I just passed on to someone yesterday was How Successful People Think. Right. And I didn't realize years ago that he has essentially a whole series on how successful people grow, how successful people you fill in the blank. And so, but they're very quick some of them are very quick reads, but they're really great principles. If you're looking to elevate your leadership or you're looking to be you are an inspiring leader, right? That you can implement real world same day. So
Yep.
So we have one question that we ask on this podcast.
Okay.
That's the only one.
Okay.
Yes.
It's Glenn's question.
yeah. So I want to ask that question. I have one previous question only because so many people in life deal with life.
Obviously.
obviously, right? But and some people are able to be resilient and navigate through life's challenges, and others are not, right? And so this question will lead into my final question, but the question that I have for you, based off of your experience, right? You going through your marriages and finding relationships and the passings, how were you able to create or keep a growth mindset in those seasons versus just going into that dark space and staying in there?
I think several different things kept me from falling into the darkness. First, there were days of darkness. Absolutely. I had people around me I loved, including a son to raise. And I wanted to set an example for my child that, when life kicks you
Right.
and you fall down, you find your way back up again. And it was very important to me to be able to set that example for my child. I also think we're kind of here just to experience life and to play and learn. I mean, I've been told I have a sunny personality, and I kind of think I do. And as long as I'm here with the energy and the will to keep kicking, I'm going to keep kicking. It's kind of I'm just a person wired that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when others are not, it's important to figure out how to give people some space and some grace, and ultimately to figure out if you're the right person to be in their lives or not. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And a lot of times I just try and think of as not yet. Not maybe the solution for this is not today.
Right. Okay. I appreciate that. So hypnotherapist, author of 2 books, entrepreneurship, based, big on mindset. My last question is, there's 3 words in all of your experience around some of the things that I just mentioned. There's 3 words: life, love, and leadership. Choose one of those words, and in 120 seconds or less, just speak whatever's on your heart.
I'm going to take, it's hard to pick, but I'm going to take love. I think that love, in some ways, umbrellas all of them. I think life is meant to live with love. Love for your personal passions, love for your people, love for your habits and hobbies and accomplishments and failures. And I think leadership falls under love too, because I think the best leaders are people who respect and love the people they're leading.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it rolls up to love. A few years ago, I made a meditation called Love is a Verb. And of course, love is many things. It's not just a verb. But I like thinking about love as being a verb. How can you evidence your love, show your love, and really lean into love? Because I think that's the core of why we're here.
I appreciate that. Michelle Walters, it has been an absolute pleasure. Just knowing the wealth of experience that you have. App development, diving into AI to, not only help yourself, but help your clients and help people. That is something, when we talk about leading through the lens of love, that is in which a way I lead. And so I look forward to hearing more about the evolution of what the next phase of your app.
Absolutely. I have a coupon I'm going to give you guys too,
awesome.
to put in your code in the show notes for your listeners.
Absolutely. And so, again, just very grateful for your presence, grateful for what you're doing and the space that you're doing it in. And I'll turn it over to Cam to close this up.
So before we leave, how can people find you? List the website again, and the names of your books and anything else you feel like people should know.
So my website for me, myself, is michellewalters.net. My app website is makemyhypno.com. And my books are An Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love, and The ABCs of Conscious Leadership. And all of this is in one form and another on my website. So, and there's a big button on my website to be able to send me an email or to schedule a call, and would love to connect with your listeners and see if I can help.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, all right, y'all. It's a wrap. Like, love, share, subscribe per the usual, and we'll see you guys later.
Yes.
Peace.
L through perspective.